start. So let's go next here on Rumble. YouTube is live. We're live on YouTube. So let me go to YouTube here. Sorry guys. Give me a second. This is... Sorry guys. It's good? I'm not like, you know, rah. And, okay, so it says it's live on Rumble.
I think his sound is so low.
There's an echo somewhere.
No, his
So I don't know. Can you check Rumble also, please? Alright guys, sorry, I'm just getting set up here. And then we will... Oops, man, I hate that. Because I have not tried to do this many platforms. This is the... Last time I did 2 platforms, this time I'm doing what? Is it 4 platforms? So... where is it? Okay, cool. This can pause, and then I can see the comments here. All right. We are live. Oh, I need to do X. Let me post X. Create a broadcast. Man. And post. Okay. A little bit complicated. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of cool. How you doing, man? No, for sure. We Will and I, we wanted to kind of do something for reverts, and so we decided that, like, you know, we're gonna do a live show and just be like, you know, call it the revert experience, because reverts. No, absolutely. Yeah,
his sound, this doesn't have any sound.
There's no sound for him?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. How about now? They say there's no sound for you. There's a delay, so I'm just waiting for it to come through. Oh, the complication of it all. Now I've got like too many screens open here. Still no sound. That's not normal. Let me see. Is it OBS?
Is it his mic?
Let me see. How about now? I don't know. I have my desktop audio off. I think maybe I think it sounds coming through the desktop audio. Whoa. Can you say something, bro?
Sure, how about now? You hear me?
Man, we got so much echo coming through now. No, it's fine. Okay, good. Okay.
All right.
Cooking with gas. So back to what we were talking about, the unique challenges that reverts face.
Yes, reverts, we face a lot of challenges. My name is Harry. Please, shameless plug here, follow me at Mr. Harry198 on X. And also come see us at the Mad Mamlukes podcast on YouTube. But yes, we do have a lot of unique challenges and people don't really understand it. And that's leading to a lot of trouble and drama on YouTube, as you can see. People don't understand where Andrew Tate or Sneeko or any of these other people are coming from.
No, absolutely not.
Not.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and here's the funny thing. Before we get into our personal conversation, I've talked about this on X. I think you've seen it since we follow each other. There's a whole cadre. There's legions of people who were born and raised in Muslim families, and they can't get their religion right. They've been born and raised upon Islam. They grew up in Islamic households, and they can't get it right. But they expect someone who's been a Muslim a few years. You know, he spent his entire life. Be it me, you. We don't have to focus on Andrew. Some people have a problem with that, but it can be anybody who's a revert. They spend most of their life as a non-Muslim. They become a Muslim, and then all of a sudden they're expected, like in a year, 2 years, to overwrite 30 plus years, or even like myself, when I became Muslim, I was like 22, 23, to overwrite all that time, high school, adolescence, just overwrite all that kufr from one day to the next. It's not realistic. It's not realistic.
Not at all.
But
it's not realistic at all.
No, it's not. And I'm not really sure why we as Muslims are not living in a world that's grounded in reality. I mean, you'd figure Muslims would be the first people to do that. but obviously not.
I think this is my 2 cents. I think part of the disconnect comes from the very ancient East versus West divide that Christianity and Islam have occupied themselves into. So anytime a Westerner does something for some people in the East, automatically it's bad. And anytime somebody from the East does something for a certain cadre of Westerners, it's automatically bad. And they will come and tell you that Islam is an Eastern religion. Somebody the other day, X was Christian, said, "Harry, you became Muslim. You're not a real Westerner anymore. Just leave." And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because you follow an ancient Middle Eastern religion." And I was like, "Oh, really? I follow an ancient Middle Eastern religion from a certain part of the Middle East." Well, okay. Is there any other Middle Eastern religion that you might follow also? I don't know.
Christianity. What do they think that is?
Right. It's not just people not tracking. Because I think Muslims have the same problems for some of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with identity politics taking place inside the Ummah. I mean, people are really insular and tribal. How bad we should view this? I'm not really sure. But I did do an experiment online. I don't know if we followed each other at that time. But I kind of like I threw up this false dichotomy. It's not false dichotomy, but I threw up this false thing where the West is for Western reverts, and everybody else needs to go back. So I started acting like they say, don't come to our country, don't marry our women, don't do this, don't do that. And I was like, yeah, well, go back to your countries, don't marry our women. And they didn't like it. They freaked out. And I'm like, oh, you hold up the mirror and you don't like it. So it's like these rules are for thee, not for me. I can be a racist wanker, but you can't. You know? And if you do it, you're causing division in the Ummah. But if we do it, the ulama say that there's it's preference and people should marry their own people. It's like, do you hear yourself, you people?
so when I became Muslim, what I was told is, listen, Harry, ideally, if you're going to be Muslim and live in the West, you got to give dawah and you got to have a good community. And if you don't have a good community, it might be better because you're retired from the military to just go live overseas and live in a Muslim country. And that's what I chose to do. I chose to live here in Jakarta, Indonesia as an expat. I also go back to the United States periodically, but I chose a hybrid of both. Because ideally, once you become Muslim, you got to be around other Muslims, or you will fall into some of these pitfalls that some of these people on YouTube and elsewhere are falling into. We see it very publicly. There's definitely a difference between someone who is from Pakistan that has been part of the English Empire for many, many generations coming into the UK versus mass migration.
Yeah.
But I think that's a separate issue, mass illegal immigration of the kind we're seeing lately. But that's a very different issue than I think what you're talking about. Some people, they just want to be completely by themselves in their own clique. And for some people, that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. Pakistanis do that. Indonesians do that. Lots of people do that. So white people aren't any different.
Fair. No, absolutely.
There's a limitation to how much you can just be by yourself too. And still be part of it.
No, absolutely. I agree. But let's go into a little bit of personal talk if you don't mind. Like, you want to talk a little bit about your history? How long have you been Muslim? How did you come to Islam? How did you come? I've got the echo in my headphones, and it really jams up my speech pattern.
I understand that. I've been there. I do. I wish, is there something on my end? I don't think
No, I don't think so. I had this in the last episode also, but I think I just got to get used to it. But when I talk, I hear my words playing back to me like a fraction of a second right after I say it, and it's just like, whoa, it's screwing my head.
I've been there.
So, like, how long have you been Muslim? How did you come to Islam? Like, what dawah or how or whatnot? If you're interested in telling the story, if you're willing to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Texas and from Waco, Texas originally. My parents, after they got divorced, we moved around a little bit. Lived with my mom. She moved us to Buffalo, New York, and then we wound up in Missouri. When I was 17, I joined the Army with parental permission. And 2008, 2009, I went to Iraq as an MP. And I was in Samara first, and then Mosul. And towards the end of the deployment, we were about a few weeks away from going home, and I got blown up. Some kid came up to our truck with a bomb and yelled us pretty good. And, I didn't want to shoot a kid going to school nearby, so everybody had been yelling at me for the entire deployment, be nice to the locals. So I was nice, and I got pulled up. And alhamdulillah, I'm still alive and in one piece, but I got a retirement package on that. And when I got back stateside, that kind of set me on a journey because I realized by that point that we've been lied to about everything. I was realizing that the whole thing was a lie. It wasn't that I hated America. It wasn't that I hated the Army. No, I love the Army. I love America. I love the American people. I love Texas. I'm proud native Texan. I don't hate Texas or America or anything in particular about America. But you know what I don't like? I don't like our foreign policy. And I realized we've been bamboozled. And so that kind of set me on this journey. We've been sold all these things about Muslims that just weren't true. And so the next 10, 15 years after that, I spent, what is the real Islam? What is this? And I'd ask my Muslim friends, so what do you guys actually believe? And then about 10 years ago specifically, I wound up here in Indonesia because I found somebody online, now my ex-wife, who was a Chinese Christian woman. There's a lot of Chinese Christian women over here in Indonesia. Okay. And for the first time, I was introduced to a Muslim place with Muslim people who weren't Arab or Middle Eastern. And so that whole dichotomy of East versus West, white people versus the Middle East, those people over there, that kind of just went away. And I was in this really lovely place where your wife is from, a really lovely place full of really lovely people that are just really cool to hang around with. And we don't have any natural animosity that you could really say goes back to the time of the Persians and the Romans, if we're really being honest. It's like an ancient thing going on way before Islam and Christianity. Okay. But Indonesia doesn't have that. Indonesia is like Hawaii with Muslims. Just
Said
completely
Hawaii
different
with
vibe.
Muslim.
This is a completely different thing, man. And so, eventually I took my Shahada about 5 years ago now, alhamdulillah. I have been working as a truck driver in the U.S., driving trucks back and forth all over the country. And I'd work a few months over in the States and then I'd come over here, work a few months, go back and forth. And it just eventually got to the point where I just want to stay here.
Okay.
And I remarried about a year and a half ago to a Muslim lady from Jakarta.
Okay,
And
awesome.
we're doing great. And hopefully we'll have children soon, inshallah. We're very excited.
Inshallah. I'm big on that. People need to have kids.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's like a 10%.
I've got 10. So yeah.
Wow.
I walk my talk.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good, man.
Let me ask you. So the average person who's looking for a place to move, how easy is it to get a residency visa or stay in Indonesia? Is it a complicated affair?
It is not complicated as it used to be. 10 years ago when I first came here, it's like the Suharto era never died. It was like the bureaucracy was like left over from the 80s.
Okay.
They didn't use computers in some places. They didn't really have a website. They would yell at you if you showed up in flip flops because you're supposed to wear shoes as a foreigner, a boule, as they call us. Yeah, there was a very archaic and confuddled system. Now, compared to Malaysia, it's still a little bit archaic, but it's streamlined and improved.
Gotcha.
And the best way to immigrate, if you want to live abroad overseas, make hijra over here, digital nomad hijra, is you can get what's called a B211 visa and come here for a couple months, and you can renew it for another 2 times, and you can stay for a total of 6 months, get a real feel of the country. Or you can get a digital nomad worker visa that's meant for expats that want to come and work in Bali as remote worker. But ultimately, the way to stay long-term in Indonesia, you don't need a whole heck of a lot of money to do this.
Okay.
Is you need to either come and start a business, get a PT, like an LLC, or you get married to a local gal like I did. And once you're here for about 2-3 years, then you can apply for a permanent or at least 5 to 10 year residency permit.
Okay.
There's no dual citizenship here. None. You could become an Indonesian citizenship in about 5 to 10 years if you learn the language and you make enough friends. I do not know anybody who has done that and renounced their Western citizenship. And I'm not sure if I want to do that. So keep that in mind.
If anybody wants to know, I know. If you have children with an Indonesian citizen, your children can have dual citizenship up to their 21st year of life. At 21, they have to decide. Yeah. But adults, not allowed.
No. Yeah. Not me. Oh.
Yeah. So let me ask you, going into the next topic, marrying as a revert. Did you find that there's going to be you follow me on X? I think you've seen the commentary at this point. I know we haven't been following each other long, but I think you see maybe from my X the level of resistance that some people have to reverts marrying people who were born and raised upon Islam. What was your experience in Indonesia? Did you face anything like that?
Oh boy, did I ever! I faced all kinds of additional. Plus, I just gotten, separated and was going through the process of a divorce. So the idea of Indonesia is a little bit different than Muslim countries like Yemen and Iraq. There's a sensitivity to polygamy because there's a couple reasons why for that. One is because what I believe is the first president was kind of a player. and he had like 9 wives at one point. And so he
Okay.
got a little carried away. So,
That's more than a little.
you know, he got a little carried away. So people are always like, you know, what about his 3rd or 4th wife and how she was so heartbroken? You can't do that. And then there's also this thing of, there's also this thing where a lot of people will say they're divorced or they're single when actually they're not. So some people have been married, and women will do this too. They'll say, I'm single or I'm divorced. And they're really still married to some other dude and living with him. And then simultaneously being married to. Yes. Yeah. So I got bamboozled myself, where my now ex-wife was telling people that, oh, I really love Harry. Oh, he's a really great guy. Oh, I can't get him a visa to stay in the country. You don't understand. He's going to have to get me a green card to America. So she lied, because the day I got remarried to my current wife, the day I got remarried, we went to or the next day, we went right to the immigration office, and within a week, I had my residency permit.
Oh, that's fast.
So my ex-wife, you know, she pulled a story on me, and she's not alone. A lot of women do that with foreigners here, and they do that with each other. So that's why polygamy, you know, outsiders coming in. And then there's this other thing where a lot of Saudi guys used to come here, get married, give the girl a big fancy nikah, knock her up, and then just pop smoke and go back to Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of reasons why people are skeptical of reverts, boule, and then they're a little bit soft and sensitive about polygamy still. It's not as bad as it used to be back in the 90s and 80s, but they're still a little sensitive about that topic. It's a little more acceptable now, but it wasn't acceptable 10, 15 years ago. It was a big taboo topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it worked out for you.
It did, and even though I'm not Salafi, when I came back to Indonesia after getting separated and going through divorce, I started hanging around some Salafi people, and they turned me on to the right. I went through Taruf. I went through a professional matchmaker, Indonesian Muslim matchmaker.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got to find the right people to get to the right ladies. It's a bit of a hunt. It's doable. It's a bit of a hunt. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. I tried to get into the like matrimonial website, you know, application type scene, because so many people were asking me to help them get married. And I had a guy who was doing programming. We had a disagreement and it didn't work out. Wish him the best. But now I'm back in the same position as I was before. I've got like so many people asking me to matchmake and help them find people to get married. Now I've got people they're asking me to help them get their kids married. You know, I recently got like, you know, some of the people in my family married, some of the younger folk, alhamdulillah, and I'm hearing the struggles of other brothers, and they're like, hey, I got a daughter, she's 19. Hey, I got a son, he's 22. Hey, I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back into that whole matchmaking type of thing. I'm just not really sure how to manage it, you know. But it's definitely there's a demand and a need for it in the West.
Yes.
It's, you know, arranged marriage is somewhat of a taboo, I guess you could say. I guess we know it. You know that just as well as I do.
It's a taboo for sure.
It's also understood to be a very good system, and a lot of people are, you know, reverting back to it. So, yeah, matchmaking.
It's a thing. It's a thing. It works. I mean, I submitted basically a CV. I submitted a resume. I read my wife's resume. I said, okay, that seems like a nice person I'd like to meet. She said, oh, wow, he seems like a great guy I'd like to meet. And I met like 10 women on the same day, and she was the one that was the most interested. There's a couple other that were super interested too, but I just didn't feel a match. And with her, I did feel a match, and it worked. It was 6 months later, we were married.
6 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Had to process some paperwork and, you know.
Okay. The entire bureaucracy and whatnot.
Yeah, and I had to make sure that my divorce was finalized before we could get married.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Wait. So from the perspective of the state, they wanted you to be divorced first before you got married again. They wouldn't accept that you were married to 2 women.
They didn't. care, but I wanted to make sure that the
Gotcha.
divorce was going to process anyways, because Indonesia would not care since my marriage with my ex-wife was never registered in America. So Indonesia doesn't care.
Gotcha.
I was afraid that maybe my ex-wife could try and go to an American court, even though she never was able to show back up after her visa expired and do something shady, like, oh, do you know what Harry's doing? Blah, 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 blah. You know, go to my, I'm way more afraid of my government than I am afraid of the Indonesian government. So that's just how I feel.
Yeah. Fair.
But it was done. I made sure that we made sure that the crosses were, the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. And we're good.
Mashallah, that sounds okay. Mashallah. So, life in Indonesia. Tell me about it.
Life in Indonesia is awesome. A lot of people have this conception that Indonesia is sort of this dangerous, grimy, scary place with some beautiful scenery sprinkled here or there. They think it's like a National Geographic special. If they know it, that's what they think. Or a lot of people also, they really just think about Bali. Yeah. They don't really think about the rest of Indonesia. It's very weird. Indonesia is like this sleeping giant in the Southeast Asia that people just don't really talk to or engage with. But this is a country of almost 300 million people.
That's like
it's almost
America almost. I know it's the most populous Muslim country in the world. I know that, yes. But 300 million. Wow, that's impressive for like those small islands.
But it's not small. It looks small on the map because that map that we have is a white man's map. Drawn to white men's.
You gonna blame this on Whitey?
As a white man, I am going to blame this on myself. Yes, because we have historically, this is true joke, no fairy tale, true story, no fairy tale. We have made certain parts of the world smaller than they actually are on the map. Africa being one of them. And Indonesia is also. Pretty much every major country in the global south is made like this. It's not drawn to proper scale. Indonesia, if it's drawn to proper scale, is probably almost as big as the United States. If you add all the islands together.
That's impressive, Nasina. I would have never thought that.
You're not alone.
Man, the white dudes done colonized our maps.
That's right. And now this Boule who works for the CIA is here to colonize our women and pretend that he's Muslim. Yeah, that was, some people did think that about me.
Really?
They actually thought I were, yes, because the old president, the old dictator, he was their Saddam Hussein, really. He warned people, watch out for these white people. They're all CIA operatives.
No.
And he wasn't wrong. Some of the people who were, back in the Dizay coming year, many of them were CIA operatives. But people to this day, when I first came back here, as a Muslim, hey, I'd like to become Muslim. I'd like to stay here. I want to get married to a local lady to stay. There were some people who were like, who are you? What are you really doing here? Who do you really work for, my God? And it's not crazy to think that. And then I don't have any, I say I was in the Army, but I don't have a lot of pictures from when I was in the Army. So that just makes it all the more suspicious for a lot of people. Like, who are you?
Oh, my. But, it's kind of crazy because it's like, okay, the CIA is everywhere. This is true. But it's like,
yes.
I'm thinking about Indonesia on a global scale, and what they do provide is a lot of population. But I mean, otherwise, they're not known for exceptionally strong economics, military. Regionally, I suppose they are important because of their location. But it's like, why would the CIA come down there, and be creeping around the neighborhood? It's kind of like,
because this country, if it was, I would choose my words carefully. If it was allowed to operate properly by certain powers that be, would be richer and more powerful than the United States or European Union. Possibly, right? There are huge deposits of rare earth minerals for car batteries here.
Mm.
Gold, emeralds, oil, all kinds of rich stuff that you would expect from a volcanic hot lava hotspot.
Fair. Okay, I didn't think of it like
So
that.
yeah, there's a lot. There is trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars worth of wealth. It's like some of the most valuable land in the universe would be asteroids.
Yeah.
They've done the math on some of these asteroids that are floating around out there in space. I wouldn't say Indonesia's an asteroid, but it's pretty close to that in terms of like kind of value it has across this archipelago.
I understand now. It's kind of like, in that sense, it would be like Africa. Although Africa does have self-governance problems, just in general.
Yes.
But when they finally get themselves together, like that one guy in Sierra Leone, the really young guy, seems like he's got a half decent head on his shoulder.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. The guy that's always dressed in combat, wearing the combat gloves at his desk.
That's a very African thing to do. Have you noticed that? Nobody else in the United States dresses like that. People don't wear their military uniform after they become president ever. We just no, we're civilian all the way now.
Yeah, it's
everybody else in the world wears a uniform all the time.
Yeah, but we see when they start to self-govern and do things in their own interest and for the interest of their nation, all of a sudden these coup pretends start popping up. All these strange military, paramilitary, separatist groups start popping up. It's yeah, interesting.
That's literally what the French Foreign Legion's for, is to start that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
They have support of Wagner, the Russian Wagner group, and there was a big ambush recently, like where Sierra Leone troops and Wagner troops got ambushed, a whole bunch of them. And then the Russians went back and did a counterstrike. I don't know, man. I'm not a fan. I've talked about this on X. I'm not a big fan of mass migration, just for multiple reasons. Just because of like the way they act after 2-3 generations on X. It's like, where are you getting your arrogance from to act the way that you act? So in general, I think there's after all my travels, 51 travels, 52 countries in the world, my travels show me that there's a lack of conformity a generational lack of conformity that cannot be erased, but in combination with my concept of like ending mass immigration, it also involves the West no longer interfering with other people's nations, and they just let them be and become whatever they can be and become. You can't go screwing around with people's nations and in their politics, and then say, don't come here. It's disingenuous.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that immigration and colonization are actually two sides of the same coin, like how you said. But I would add one thing, which is that the powers that be in the West benefit off of both things.
They do.
They like burning the candle at both ends. They love stirring up all this trouble and destabilizing any government that can rival them or rival their interests. And they also love all this influx of cheap labor. So, and they love it when they can just send all these illegals in through the border and they're like, oh, we get to undercut native people's wages.
You know what?
I just love it.
I'm not even sure it's about cheap labor. I definitely think it's about labor, but I don't know if it's about cheap labor. This is what I theorize. I mean, I said this almost 10 years ago. I said this almost a decade ago. You can find it on my YouTube channel. And they're not importing people for humanitarian purposes. I think we all know this at this point. They'll take advantage of global problems to say, hey, look, we're being humanitarian and we're bringing in refugees. But that's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because populations here are on the decline. And they need the system to continue. And so they're willing to bring in 100,000 useless people to get 1,000 useful ones. Yes. They don't care just as long as they're willing to play a numbers game. And so this is why you find that like a lot of people who are opposed to like immigration and the immigration situation that's happening or getting arrested or they're, labeled as, state enemies and, racist, this, that, the other. And maybe the guy's just concerned about his nation in general, like what's going on here. You're opposing what the state wants and what the state needs to keep their little gambit running,
Yes.
So I think they're even willing to just look past cheap labor. They're willing to pay these people a lot of money. I was working at Tesla recently, and there's a lot of high paid like non-German, non-European nationals there. A lot. I mean, you have a lot of Indians there, you have a lot of Pakistanis there, you got a lot of different people, good professional people. I mean, these would be of the 1,000, where it's like these are, but what it took to get those guys was pretty significant. I don't think it's about cheap. I mean, even cheap labor, they're willing to just like say, hey, you know what, just bring these guys in. They're willing to pay them good money, but they just want to keep the ball rolling the way that they understand it rolls right now. And, if we're going to like have a society that needs to adjust, I was having this conversation with a guy on X today, to adjust the society to this new dynamic of lower populations. I mean, a lot has to happen. You have to get rid of the idea of positive, economic growth year on end. You have to get rid of the idea that all infrastructure can and must be maintained. Something's going to have to collapse because there's not enough technology or people to maintain all the infrastructure that's in place for the populations we have now. So
Japan is a perfect
lot of different stuff going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of ghost houses across Japan. Perfectly good houses from the 80s and 90s. And
Europe too.
It's just dead villages. Yeah, I believe that. There's just
Italy is a mess.
Oh man, that's sad, dude.
Yeah.
I think what's going to change is going to be robots and automation. Hopefully that's going to answer some of the problem and we can slow down on all these things.
They always militarize that stuff though.
They do. I mean, that is a concern. That is a concern. But, one of the things that I've noticed from this whole thing with Yemen and this whole kerfuffle with the Ukraine is that it's not that hard for poor rednecks living in the middle of nowhere to come up with some innovative DIY solutions. And the Houthis are a perfect example of that. With limited technology that they've imported from Iran, they're basically able to stop the United States Navy in their tracks.
Yeah.
We had to leave. We had to leave because we couldn't shut them down. So I think we're all, as bad as it is that we've got all this robot, scary stuff flying around, launching drones at people. There is also a lot of democratization of some of this technology, and it doesn't take a whole lot to shut down the more advanced systems.
No.
It's a good thing.
I was talking to a supervisor of mine, his name is John, before I left Tesla. And we were talking about he was talking about the Tesla robot and whatnot and options with staying with Tesla and whatnot. And we were talking about the militarization of drones and whatnot in Ukraine in specific. And but I was like, name me a massive advance in human technology that wasn't military related. So I'm not opposed to it, but it's scary because up until the point where that technology makes that transition from civilian to military, makes a huge leap, and then goes back to an overall spread into the civilian world and making the civilian life better. It's a terrifying time, and we're right in that terrifying time. This is where the new rules are made. We see in Ukraine right now, it's like we're way off the topic of reverts, but it's awesome anyway. You see this.
Way out.
You see the technology and how terrifying it is, and just killing regular dudes out on the battlefield. It's heartless. It's absolutely ruthless. So until we come up to some similitude of balance where this technology is so peripheral that we're hey, we're gonna have to chill out here somehow, and then it goes back into civilian utility. Yeah, man, it's pretty scary.
I'm going to say what the one saving grace of this is, and I'm going to segue back into Islam here because, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he did talk about towards the end times we're going to be basically living in a world without poverty, and we're edging very close to that world right now. And also, we're in a world right now where everybody's comfortable. So as bad as Ukraine and the Middle East are right now, they're not as bad as World War II, World War I. And part of the reason is that we're all very comfortable and we're all very cowardly. And that is a good thing and a bad thing. And our testosterone levels have all gone down. So, you saw this in your home country, Germany, right now. The Chancellor Olaf Scholz just said, "Hey, Ukraine, sorry, we don't have any more money for weapons. Sorry." And of course, part of that is because they're finding out now that Nord Stream possibly got
I just
taken
wanted
out
to
by
say that.
Ukrainian special forces. So it was like it's kind of like it's very passive aggressive. We were talking early. Europeans are very passive aggressive. I'm sorry, it's a very passive aggressive way of saying we're not over the fact that you blew up our pipeline. So
No,
we're
absolutely.
just gonna cut you off.
Yeah.
No, we're in. I believe that, and I've said this many times on X and on YouTube and on the Mad Analyst. I think America, in particular, where you and I are both from originally, America is going through something similar to what the Roman Empire went through with Christianity. I do. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we had Richard McKinney. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Richard McKinney on the show.
Sounds
McKinney.
familiar.
Yeah, he's an ex-Marine that got blown up in Iraq like I did, although he got knocked unconscious and thrown across the building somewhere. He got it worse than I did. But I said it was interesting, Richard, you and I both got blown up in Iraq, and here we are giving Dawa to people 10, 15, 20 years later. And, if you look at how the Christianity spread into the Roman Empire, it started a lot of times through legionnaires. Legionnaires accepting what was the early Christianity, which is basically Islam. You and I know that's Islam, but
indeed.
Basically the early Christians, they were some of the first early Christians. And then what else happened is that once the Romans destroyed then Israel, they scattered the Jews and the Christians into the winds, and many of them entered into the Roman Empire as refugees. Well, what do we have happening right now in the West and in the United States? We're smashing that piece of land again and scattering people inside to the empire. And Europe is, in a sense, very much a vassal state of the American project.
100%.
So, 100%. So we're seeing this repeat all over again. And then I can't tell you, and I know you've probably seen this yourself, how many times have you seen in the last 6-8 months people taking their shahada because of the bravery and martyrdom of the Palestinians? Now tell me, is that not just exactly like what happened with the Christians in the Roman Colosseum with the lions? It is.
True.
We're going
in this direction.
We're going in this direction. So alhamdulillah, for all this chaos, for all this modernity, and then you think about the information. The information of the Gospels was able to spread through the Roman Empire very quickly because of Roman transportation infrastructure. Well, we got the 5th generation camera, cell phones, shows like this, alhamdulillah, shows like mine, shows like yours. And this information is getting out there in real time.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So I think Allah had a purpose in allowing all these crazy things to happen.
Absolutely. Going back to the revert topic.
Yes.
Where do I want to go with this? Yeah, I'm getting old.
People need what's at the fact of reverts.
Well, yeah. Let's change gears.
Okay.
Reverts. Western reverts. What do you think? Let me think of the right wording here. Build somewhere else or stay at home?
Well, I tell people, I've talked about this on my channel. I had a channel previously before the Mad Mamelukes that got shadow banned, so I gave it up and just went to the Mad Mamelukes, and we're shadow banned there too. But I have talked about this extensively on both channels. That's why I'm on X now, because I haven't gotten shadow banned yet. But what I think is that it really depends on what kind of person you are. I come from a military family like you come from a military family. We're traveled people.
Yep.
We were born traveling. We, on one hand, are both very American. On the other hand, we are both very international.
Yeah.
So, we're living a different kind of life. Springboarded by, I think, because your father was in the Army and because I myself was in the Army. And so that kind of gives people a different flavor. This life is not for everybody. And even if you were in something like the military or the Navy or whatever, you traveled around a little bit. Let me tell you folks something. To be an expat in a country for another country for years and years, especially one that's vastly different than your own, it's not like going between US and Canada. It is really going to Indonesia is very different. And this is not for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I have a good friend of mine named Rob. He's in our group. He's in our chat group. From Canada, Canadian Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he talks about
consider him a
how.
friend.
Yeah, it's a good, great, beautiful, wonderful human being. He went through a couple of failed interracial relationships, went through some travels himself, and he decided, nope, I'm white and I'm Canadian. I'm just staying here. I'm just gonna stay here in Canada and drink hot chocolate and eat beaver tails and watch hockey. It wasn't for him. And there's, Allah created us in diversity that we might get to know each other and do different things. So, it's. I don't tell people, yeah, you totally got to make Hydra, bro. You can go travel abroad if you want to. It might not be for you. But if you're brave and adventurous, this can be a good opportunity.
Yeah. I'm something of a traveler. I think I'm an American Gypsy. Definitely a TCK, third culture kid. An American that doesn't really vibe totally with American culture, but and so that makes it more, attractive for me to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. What I do want to do though is I do want to spend time around what I would consider quote unquote my people.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah, because like you and I, we vibe. We can vibe and we can talk because we have something in common. We're both Americans. We both have a military, history, connection with the military. So it's easy to get along because we have similar mentalities in that regard. Like you said, when you go to a different culture that's so vastly different than yours, unless you spend a lot of time in that culture, you're going to struggle. And I'll give you an example of myself personally. I lived in the Middle East, and man, I struggled to the point that I left. I've sworn it off for anything except Hajj. I will not go back with the attempt to live there. The only time I'm going back to the Middle East is for Hajj. That's it. They burnt it up for me so bad that I was like, you know what? They don't belong here and I don't belong there. This is like oil and water.
Yeah.
So for me, I want to live around Muslims, but I want to live around Muslims like me, because we have a shared commonality in the sense of we're all reverts. We're all from the West. We have several, similar journeys and pathways. Culturally, we understand certain things, what to take seriously, what not to take seriously. Like when we look at X, we see all of these third generation immigrant kids. They get worked up over stuff that for us is just it's quite literally a laugh. We make a joke and Akbar, Abuamerican said, and it's dude, who takes this seriously? It's a joke. And it's not even a joke about the religion. I made a thing about a guy who made a joke about the religion, about bitter and birthday cakes. We won't even joke about that as reverts. We'll joke about something in the dunya, and they're freaking out. And then when it's one of their own making a joke about the religion, now they're lock arm. And it's
Oh man, yeah, I know. That's just so ridiculous. It was when Andrew Tate said something about "you will bow down before me as your Lord."
Exactly.
I knew exactly what Andrew Tate was saying. He wasn't actually saying "bow down and worship me as your Lord." It's you ever watch Alex Jones? Alex Jones says jokes like that all the time. I'm Alex Jones, and I'm telling you, the New World Order, they want us to bow down before him like they were Lord. Alex Jones isn't doing that.
It's like saying, I game. And so if I start whipping people in PvP and I say, bow down to the master, come on, man. I don't mean anybody should come here making sajada to me. Are you smoking crack? I don't want to live around people who don't understand cultural context of I've done something impressive and I've made a joke about it. I don't want to live around people like that. Now, okay, fair. We're Muslims. We need to be careful with our speech. Absolutely. But if you're just excited or you just type something on the fly and then you can't culturally understand the context of what's being said,
Yeah, no, they just. There's two things that need to happen, I think, that would really help facilitate transactions to mass conversions. And I think Rob is getting at some of the heart of it, which one is that reverts need to talk to other people in their native born communities. That's helpful. For a lot of people, that is helpful. Like Richard lives back in Muncie, Indiana, where he's from, and he gives dawah to people there. So, like, just as I'm supposed to be here, Richard's supposed to be there. That's how I feel about it. But then there's also this thing of, I think people before they take Shahada, they don't need to spend like 5 years learning about Islam, but they should have like maybe a week-long class or something. Somebody should say, hey, listen, there's just some very basic things like you really need to understand that Jesus, you can love him, he's our prophet, peace be upon him, but he's not our Lord and Savior anymore, okay? Can you accept that? Can you at least get that part? Yes, polygamy is a thing in Islam. That does happen in some parts of the Muslim world. You have to sit down and explain some basic things to people so that they don't flip out. And also, native-born Muslims, born Muslims need to have like classes in the masjid of how to deal with reverts. When I was in Iraq, we had classes on how to talk to local people. Don't show them the bottom of your feet. Don't rape anybody. Don't burn anything. Don't attack anybody. Don't steal from anybody. Don't be obnoxious. Don't stare at the women. Don't do anything inappropriate. You go on patrol. You say "Salam alaikum." You throw candy at people when you go back home. Okay, you're not here to like harass people or make culture. Don't insult their religion. So people coming to the West, if that's what they want to do legally, and they've been blessed with some means to do so, they need to have a class to understand how people in these Western countries feel, and that would help a lot. But the powers that be don't want understanding and mutual respect. What they want is division and chaos. So people need to be careful here. On both sides, people need to be careful.
But in general, like, if we want to use the word multicultural, I, for lack of a better term, just bear with me here. I hate that term. I hate it too. Muslims are technically the masters of multicultural. I mean, when we look at most of the Islamic empires throughout the history, not everybody in the Islamic empire were Muslims. They lived with Christians, they lived with Jewish people, they lived with even atheists, and it was peaceful. It worked. So Muslims, even during the time of the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, this was standard. So shouldn't be like revolutionary stuff from traditional Muslim families to actually like say, hey, we're actually going to someone else's country. We're going to a non-Muslim country full of non-Muslims. We're not going to give up our Islamic identity or our culture, but we do understand that we're living amongst these people. And it still works to this day, actually, once I think about it, because when we look at Dubai, when we look at even now, Saudi Arabia is opening up the doors, Kuwait, we look at all the Gulf countries, people are living there fine, and they're Muslim countries. So that they come here and then they kind of like act the way they act, especially towards revert Muslims more than anybody else. I find it kind of crazy that it's like, man, where are you from, bro? What are y'all people on? It's
what's funny? What's funny? It's like you're black and I'm white. If anybody should be mad at me, it should be you. But these people who are from third generation from Pakistan are upset that I'm white and Southern, and they voted for Trump twice. Oh no! Oh Harry, do you want to put black people back in chains? Is that what you're all about? It's like, no, God, what's wrong with you? It's like, no, goodness, no.
That someone would even think like that right off the bat because you voted for Trump says a lot about maybe, just maybe, you don't really fit in here.
No,
I don't know.
The only reason I voted for Trump was because I thought he was the most anti-war candidate, and he was in 2016. Now I won't vote for him because I think he's kind of fallen off the rails a bit.
Yeah, he's talking kind of scary now. It's like he's been bought out. He's talking kind of wild now.
I think somebody gave him the phone call like, oh, that precious daughter you have there, oh, those precious kids, be real shame if something happened to them in car accident. Well, and then you look at what happened with Bassam Youssef,
Yeah.
and he didn't actually get kicked off of X. He shut down his account for a little bit.
Yeah, I
And
saw
then
it.
you think about where's his family at? They right next door.
Yeah.
Somebody could reach out and touch them and say, "Hi, how's it
Yeah.
going?" Hey.
I mean, heck, just look at what happened to Andrew. He actually like mentions the state. He mentions those people by name for the first time, and he's in jail less than 3 days later.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Candace
You
can
can't.
report to the FBI. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be careful out there, man. You gotta be careful.
Yeah. Well, I
But
had
yeah,
my bank account shut down.
you what?
I had my bank account shut down.
Happened to me a long time in the past, but I can't really place what it was for. I think it's definitely related to being Muslim, but definitely the American government was involved. I can tell you the stories of my no-fly list and whatnot, my whole no-fly list story. And then I had an account with the Deutsche Bank, and then they said an inquiry was put onto my account from like a U.S. agency, and they said that was just too much for us. We want to close your account. So the Deutsche Bank closed my account, and I paid
Wow.
nothing since. Yeah.
And they didn't let you no judge, jury, nothing.
They said they were not obligated to share with me any information whatsoever, including the reason why they're closing my account. They said consider it a courtesy that we told you this much. Because at the time I had a car business, so I was importing and exporting cars from Japan to Germany. So Skyline GTRs, Fairlady Zs, 300ZXs, like really fast cars, super souped up Japanese cars. And I was taking European cars and I was sending them to Lebanon and Dubai. And dude, I was killing it, man. I was crushing it. And so all that money was going through my Deutsche Bank account. And I guess that like raised some alarms because I was trading money between Japan and the Middle East and whatever else. And dude, I was just living my best life. That's all I was doing. I wasn't doing anything dodgy. I was traveling
Those
around.
are great cars,
and,
man. Yeah. Yeah, those are great
So
cars.
the Deutsche Bank messed it up. And then technically right after that, I'd say it's like not even a full half year later, just the entire thing fell apart. It wasn't because of the bank, just everything's like slowly started just eroding and falling apart.
Yeah, that's not. I can see how that would happen. For me, I was on TikTok at the start of this whole Palestinian kerfuffle after October 7th, and there were, it's very different than now. Like now, the barriers have been broken down. You can almost say whatever you want without fear because there's too many of us. They can't take us all down now. But at the beginning, I had this brand new YouTube channel that went from 100 followers to 2,800 followers in a day. And I was going up and up and up in the algorithm. And then I started talking about October 7th and what was really going on for people as a former combat veteran who has dealt with Muslims and I'm now on the other side. And YouTube channel got shadow banned. Ooh. And then the TikTok, I kept getting my videos taken down. And I just straight up said, H group aren't really terrorists anymore. Now they're actually freedom fighters. And, that was enough to stir things. And what happened is I made a purchase on TikTok for a hat. And then about a week later, and I'd had all these Israeli spam bots coming on my accounts. And also had a couple people from my old unit that are very much on Team Pro-Israel, like publicly disown me on TikTok and YouTube and other places. And a couple of them, not all of them, just a couple. In fact, not most, just a couple. And it's interesting. Right around that time happened, there was this mysterious charge at a Dick's Sporting Goods somewhere in Nebraska for $69.95.
Okay.
And it was interesting because I'm in Jakarta, Indonesia, and somehow there was a charge. This is after I bought a hat on TikTok. And then 2 weeks later, this mysterious charge at a Dick's Sporting Goods happens. Well, lo and behold, I called my bank and they shut down my account.
Okay.
And this is, pretty credible bank. I won't tell you which one, but they shut it down. And then they said the security threat, we're going to send you a new card. And then a month later, I'm still without a debit card and fighting with my bank because they even told me on the phone they wouldn't let me call, they wouldn't let me do this through text message anymore. They removed the text message option from my app and they forced me. They said you have to call us, and I was like, oh boy.
Okay.
So what it was is I waited on the phone for 2 hours, and finally I had to talk to like a very high-ranking security officer at this bank to explain who the hell I was, where I live, and what's going on. And they understood it, and that fixed the problem. It wasn't my bank coming after me, and I don't think it was the U.S. government. I think what it was these Israeli spam bots getting a hold of people's stuff and shutting stuff down by causing security threats. Because I talked to a couple other friends on TikTok, and they all went through the same thing at around the same time. I have one lady, also comes from a military family like you, who had family in Germany, and she told me that one day around the same time, an ACH withdrawal from her account of about $3,000 to $4,000 got taken out and sent to Deutschland overnight, and it took her 3 months to get it back. And she couldn't pay her rent on time for a while. It was some crazy stuff happened to this poor lady. It was nuts. Like, it was nuts. So it was probably an Israeli cyber psyops.
You know, I didn't realize it before this conversation. Every single Muslim revert I know that has a military background has gone through some sort of crazy stuff like this.
Yes. Yes.
It didn't hit me until this conversation. I got to talk to a few more people that are in this situation. But I'm quite sure. No, yeah, every last Muslim that I know that has been through some sort of military connection to the military has had some sort of weird stuff going on. That's interesting.
Yes. I think what they're afraid of is we're going to become like the next Scott Ritter. Or we're going to become like they're going to be Muslim revert Scott Ritter. You know Scott Ritter is, right?
Yeah.
Former UN weapons inspector who's been trying to like make peace with Russians behind the scenes and everything like that. They took away his passport, and the FBI recently raided his house in Pennsylvania.
Aye.
I think they're afraid of us all being the next Scott Ritter.
I mean,
yeah.
I made peace with Russia.
I used to be Russian Orthodox. I still have fond memories of Russian people. I'm not at war with Russia.
Yeah.
Ukraine
No,
didn't
me
scam
either.
me. I'm not going to go support Ukraine going to start World War III with Russia. No.
Heck no.
Not all Ukrainians. Just blame Ukraine. Don't hate.
Yeah, fair, of course. Understood.
But to the powers that be that are listening, and I do mean this sincerely, for $20 million, I will renounce my citizenship and never come back.
I'd like to say I'll do that too.
Yeah, I'll take that too. Yeah.
I don't want to be a cheap bleep, but I'll take half. Give me 10.
$20 million. Listen, $20 million or best offer. Think about it, machine. Think about it, Matrix. We will go away. Our children will never vote in those elections. We won't be, you in particular, we won't be a demographics problem for you.
No.
So you think we're just bad, terrible people? We'll go away. We're already halfway out the door already anyways.
Hey,
Well.
definitely. I'll undercut you, bro. Give me 10 million. I'm gone. Okay? Disappear. Well, I won't disappear from the earth. I'll be all over the internet, but you won't hear from me again. No.
They
won't come on vacation. Nothing.
No, nothing. People can send me Dr. Pepper by FedEx. I don't need to
there you go.
text them to get Dr. Pepper. Yeah.
All that money I can buy Dr. Pepper at like over rates, whatever you call it, like far too high prices. I'm fair with that.
Oh yeah,
that's a good idea. We should try and put this together as an offer.
Yes, we should. I'm dead serious too. I'm like, listen, like You want us to go away. White people are all terrorists, former combat. You saw the Department of Homeland Security said that years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey.
they said we're all potential terrorists. Okay.
Right now, it's actually ideal to shoot for this. I mean, if we go with like the entire ethno state X and we put this forward to them, they'll probably be down for it. You know, they don't want me to come back. They're like, oh, you go back to Africa. Although my people, I don't know where in Africa we go to, but all these Americans seem to think I'm not American enough. So it's like, hey, pay me to go, buddy. They like to say, black people say, gimme. So gimme. Okay, gimme. I'll go away. I promise you. I will. I haven't been there in 32 years. Pay me to make sure I don't come back in. Yeah, bro. I think we should put this together as like some sort of package, like this Muslim revert, pay us to go package.
That's right. And then what will happen is we'll suddenly get a bunch of reverts because they'll be like, oh man, I want some of that cheese and the chance to go to Thailand forever. It's like you just want to get rid of white people and you just want to get rid of black folk. That's good. Bring all the illegal people from Central, Africa, the Middle East, or Central America. Yeah, just bring it. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great. I just, not only do I want black people to go back to Africa, I want y'all to save me a spot on the bus, man. Come on, let's make this happen.
Well, I mean, I think everybody said I should go to Liberia, so I'm like, hey, let's just make Liberia the new South Africa. We just go in and take over, run all the resources, make it an amazing place. It's beach. It's right on the coast, bro. I'm pretty sure we could do a lot with that place. I don't think the Liberians would appreciate us coming in there taking over, but hey, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for Muslims if you're a Muslim revert, you're welcome in Malaysia or Indonesia because Indonesia is tired of all these Aussies coming over and turning Bali into a real
degenerate.
They're tired of it. They're tired of that. Yeah. So
I can imagine. Yeah.
Indonesia is not a racist country. It is a multi-ethnic, multiracial, multi-religious place. And if you come over here and learn the Indonesian language, which is not very hard, as I'm sure your wife has shown you, it's not that difficult of a language to learn. You can assimilate pretty easily if you're willing to try.
I don't hear anything, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Dude, I've learned about 4 words of Indonesian since she's been here. It's been almost a decade. Now, she's going to get mad when I say this, but I've learned more Russian in 2 years. I can speak Russian now in 2 years. She's the worst Indonesian teacher.
No, we don't speak Indonesia because
y'all be like nasi goreng, blah blah blah, all up in the.
Banyak orang-orang tidak bisa bicara bahasa English di sini.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they don't speak English here. A lot of people don't. So you gotta learn Indonesian. You learn that you're gonna please, tolong. I'm pointing at something like, okay, mister, you can do that.
You know what I do?
You can get away with that. You can do any kind of that too. Google Translate too.
There are so many Polish guys on construction sites here. I'm a construction site manager. And it's like you try to talk to this Polish guy, you just talk into it and then Google talks back to him.
Right, yeah. It's I've done that too. I've done that with my father-in-law. It always works just fine.
Oh, mashallah. Yeah. Bro, I have to shoot. It's Maghrib. And we've been actually on for an hour.
Have we?
Yeah. It's and most of my shorts are an hour only.
Okay, no problem.
I would like to have you back on, though.
Absolutely. We can make this a thing. And we'd like to have you on the Mad Mamelukes, too.
Sorry. What? You cutting off my guest, man. What the heck? You the host.
There's an Indonesian guy. He lives in the mountains. He has viewers.
Oh, the German guy.
No, I think it's European, but he's a white guy.
Yeah, it's like German.
No.
What a player.
You never met him. I sent you the phone number.
Player. His phone number?
No.
Okay.
Yes,
this couldn't wait till after the show.
I think
we should can we have you and your wives on the show, on the Mad Mamelukes, and do an episode on polygamy? The guys that
probably individually. I think if they meet up again at this point, they're probably going to be like bring knives and guns and stuff. That. Let's say that relationship is soured.
No, not your ex-wives, but your current
ones.
No.
Yeah, my current ones. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, we can't have them in the same room at the same time? Oh, gee.
No. Well, I mean, probably could, but I'd have to put on like my referee stripes, and get a whistle.
I'm just saying it'd be a really great episode, and every single guy in the entire Muslim YouTube universe is like, I want to watch this episode.
I'll see if something could be worked out. I doubt it.
Just one line, one the other side, one here.
Right.
Like 5 people on a Zoom call at once.
I know, right? Nah. Definitely want to do it again. We can make it a thing, man, because we're just kicking it about politics in the world or whatever else, man. And I want to get back into live streaming. So, let's talk. Let's talk on the sidelines and see what we can do.
Absolutely, my brother. Thank you.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Anything you want to plug?
Just myself on X, at Mr. Harry 198, or the Mad Mamalukes on YouTube. Great folks. I'm part of the crew now, so come find us.
Nice.
Shameless plug.
If you have a hard time finding him, then go on my X, and this show has him tagged in the advertisement, and then you can find him with everything. I think you're shadow banned because I have to type in your full name to find you. Normally, if I put at CO, I get Cobra Tate. But to find you, I have to put your name in entirely. I do not get a single suggestion down to the last letter. So you must be shadow banned. Just so you know.
Of course I'm shadow banned. No, I'm still growing. It doesn't matter. I'm still growing. As long as they let me keep growing, that's okay. I'll go over it. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. Take care now. Assalamu alaikum, guys. Y'all take care.
Alaikum salam. We'll see everybody. Let's see. So now I'm sitting here playing with this thing.